here. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Our first item is our roll call. Rosie?
Okay. Oh, this is very loud. Carmen?
Present.
Lisette? Here. Pete?
Here.
Brianna?
Here.
Mary Beth?
Here.
Test. Thank you.
We ready for the next item? Oh, Pledge of Allegiance. All right, our next item, Rosie.
Our next item is approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved. I'll second it.
Thank you. Good. Let me take the vote and see if we can fix the sound. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. Passes 5-0.
All right, thank you. Item 2A, celebrating our success, honoring student achievements. And we've got Dr.
Good evening, President Daniels, Governing Board, Dr. Rita Montes, colleagues and community. Today we're here to honor three very successful students at Half Moon Bay High School. The first one is Henry Catermole. The class salutatorian is recognized as the student earning the highest academic record in a graduating class, second only to the valedictorian. The person earning this recognition gave the speech at graduation, representing the entire senior class. The amount of effort, dedication, intelligence, and focus to earn the honor of salutatorian is remarkable and worthy of our attention. So let's all acknowledge and give a round of applause to Henry. This year, there were 2 students who achieved the same performance data based on a formula with multiple indicators. These valedictorians are the students who represented the entire graduating class as a top academic students. Earning valedictorian recognition is an achievement honor based on performance data over 4 high school years. But it also is illustrative of an individual or individuals in this case, who are respected by peers, staff, in a myriad of ways. As part of the recognition, these students had the opportunity to deliver the valedictorian speech at the graduation. And all this recognition for valedictorians goes to Baker Book and Louisa Kearns. Let's give these 2 students a round of applause. We will be mailing their certificates. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bhatia. Item B, our student board members' reports. They're not here. Gone for summer. I hope they're having a good time. Our next item is general business, 3A, local control and accountability plan, presentation and public hearing. Thank you, Dr. Bhatia.
Okay. Without glasses. Okay, good evening, everyone. So here we are. The Local Control Accountability Plan is a 3-year plan. This year, we are in the middle, year 2 of 3 years of our Local Control Accountability Plan. And I just want to thank everyone at the district office, all the various departments. It definitely took a village to update all of our LCAP indicators, as well as metrics, measures. Josefina, thank you so much. I know we've been working, it seems like, for the last 3 months, actually 6 months. We thank the community, we thank our students, and everyone who has provided input on the Local Control Accountability Plan. Please know that the input and responses to all advice and recommendations from the community will be posted on our website tomorrow. Okay, and just as a quick reminder, the Local Control Accountability Plan measures 2 different performance measures. The first one is the state performance indicators, which are measured by the gauge of colors, red being the lowest performance level, blue being defined as the highest performance level, and the second type of measurement is measured by local performance indicators. And the CDE does require us to present to you our local performance indicator report, which is embedded in this PowerPoint today. And basically, the local performance indicators are measured by meeting the objective, not meeting the objectives, or not meeting the objectives for 2 or more years. I do want to point out that meeting the objective is providing an input and analysis of metrics. We may not be able to make that metric, but as long as we are able to measure the metric, that equals meeting our objective. And here's a quick agenda. We're going to start off with a LCAP indicator, local indicator presentation, and then followed by an overview of CUSD goals. And also take a look at differentiated assistance, because differentiated assistance also defined as DA, hear me say DA, because we love acronyms in education. We will also include some of the indicators that allowed us to either exit out of those few indicators or enter. And then we'll end by, I'll end by sharing some next steps. Here, our Local Control Accountability Plan, this is where you'll see the 6 separate state indicators. And that's on the left-hand side, again, measured by the gauge of colors. And then we have the 5 local indicators to the right, a total of 11 indicators that the LCAP uses in measuring performance. So I will be providing tonight a quick overview, but I do want to say to our governing board and our community that our LCAP draft is posted on our website and available for view at our district office. For today, we do have a public hearing, and we also have this draft LCAP that is, I believe, about 150 pages, so I won't be able to present all those 150 pages today, but anybody who is interested in taking a look at the LCAP in detail between today's board meeting and the meeting on the 26th, you have the opportunity to take a look at it and provide some feedback. Okay, sound better? Okay. Thank you. Okay, so here again we have, again, tonight we are presenting the LCAP in its draft form. We will continue to have updates based on input from San Mateo County of Education partners. We're working with them, and we will provide and make those recommended changes to the LCAP, as well as any input from the community that we receive. And so again, keeping in mind that today's LCAP is still in draft mode, but we do hope to bring you a complete LCAP on the 26th, but keeping in mind that as the site, the single plans for student achievement, all of these plans are living and breathing documents. If we see that something is not working in September, we do go ahead and make some small adjustment and shifts. And every year we do present whether we had to make a slight shift on a goal, on a metric. And so these, even though we are going to approve a version on the 26th, and today is a draft, we will continue to monitor it. We will definitely take the volume stop. Okay. Do I talk loud? Okay, so we will continue to make those changes. If we make significant changes, we'll bring them back to the board. And so here on this slide, you're going to see at the bottom are 4 different LCAP goals: the academic improvement goal, equity focus, whole child sustainability, and then we have to the right how we measure performance on the LCAP goals. We use a cycle of inquiry. Many of you have seen this in the business world or in other organizations where we take a look at the data, we measure how we're doing, we study the data, we act on the data by improving actions and services. We plan and we adjust if the services are working or not, then we go ahead and make that process of a continuous cycle of improvement. Okay, and here on this slide, you are going to see again the 4 LCAP goals. Underneath each goal, we do have particular sub-goals that are specific to the 4 areas of academic improvement, equity focus, whole child, and district sustainability. Keeping in mind that we were very intentional when adopting the strategic plan to making sure that we don't create 2 separate plans and we merge a strategic plan into the local control accountability plan goals. And on this next slide, you are going to take a look at the metrics that we've used to measure achievement towards those 4 different goals. And if you on the link here on this slide, for our community, if you're interested in looking at additional metrics, and it's a 150-page document that unfortunately I can't present tonight in its full, because otherwise we'll be here until after midnight. But feel free to take a click on that link, and you will take a look at all of our LCAP drafts reports that are available. Now, you already saw me present on this, on the dashboard presentation during the mid-year LCAP report. So I'm not going to spend too much time here, but I'll kind of give a reminder and an overview of our successes and areas of growth in regards to the California dashboard overview. Now, California dashboard also not only is required for us to include that analysis in our local control accountability plan, but we also use the California dashboard data to define our differentiated assistance status, because DA takes a look at student subgroups, and if there are student subgroups that have 2 or more red in any of the LCAP goals, then we are required to monitor that student subgroup for 2 years, and that's where we get assigned to receive differentiated assistance from our San Mateo County Office of Ed Partners. Now, this is last year's data, and the reason why I include this here is that we had overwhelmingly red and orange indicators on all different LCAP performance areas: English learner progress, chronic absenteeism, suspension rates, graduation rate, English language arts, mathematics, and some college and career. Now, I do just want to give a shout out to all of our classified and certificated staff, because it has taken a village to show growth in most of these areas. If we move forward to the California dashboard data for 2024, you can see that we have made significant growth, particularly for our English learners, where 75% of ELs are making progress on the LPAC. And again, when we implement interventions, it does take about 3 to 4 years to really see the growth of the intervention like we do with adoptions. So, and again, this is just one data point. We don't know how we're going to perform next year, but we do hope that we continue this trajectory of supporting particularly our at-promise students. And again, just want to give a shout out to all of our teachers and our classified staff that really have supported our students at the schools in various interventions that even include summer school. And so as you can see here, there is a significant difference of the color schemes between 2023 and 2024. So we're super excited to see that progress, and definitely a reason to celebrate. This next slide here, again, I'm not going to go into details, but again, celebrations, as I mentioned, a lot of growth in various areas, particular subgroups as well. Some continued areas of growth is that although we are seeing 75% of EL growth on the LPAC, we still have our EL students and socioeconomically disadvantaged students performing low on a couple of other indicators, local indicators, which would be, we see report cards. We still see students that are having a hard time with Ds and F, and students maybe not being able to access AP and other pathways at the high school. And mathematics is overall 10%, and we match the state. We're not it's not particular to Cabrillo Unified. This is a statewide situation where math performance of students is about 10 to 15% lower than English language arts. Chronic absenteeism, graduation rates, but please know that our teams are working this summer to make sure that we start different interventions and supports for us addressing those growth areas. And Jennifer, please correct me if I'm wrong here. We have LCFF, so now I'm going to transition to how LCAP funding works. We have LCFF versus community funded. This is the new term that we use for the previous basic aid. And currently, Cabrillo is basic aid, and it seems that we will continue to be basic aid for the future. This is where before Cabrillo actually would flip-flop, we were an LCFF district where property taxes, so the cylinder is the amount of funding that the state defines that every single school district should have depending on ADA. Sometimes property taxes don't even get to fill that bucket, and that's where the state comes in with, on the right, with the green funding to fill that bucket up to that level. Many well-to-do districts, the property taxes kind of overflow, and so any overflow of funding, the local district gets to keep that extra funding. Now, I always say this because, yes, we have an overflow, Cabrillo, of extra funding, but it's just a few drops. We're kind of that middle income district where we're not too rich to have buckets of overflow money, but we're not too poor to receive the extra state funding like concentration funds. So we're kind of stuck in the middle. We're in not really a good spot. So if you compare La Honda Pescadero receives funding close to Menlo Park, Hillsborough, up in the top 5%. Like if we have 22 districts, I think they're number 3 or 4. And so it's good that we keep the property taxes, that's good, but not good enough. I always want to say that when presenting this slide. This next slide, oh, and I'm sorry, the enrollment. I can email you the enrollment, but the enrollment last we looked was about 2,470-ish. We always decrease about 100 to 150 every year. And we did receive this year a little less of the LCFF supplemental, 2,034,349. And keeping in mind that the LCFF supplemental is meant to support students, 3 subgroups of students, English learners, socioeconomically disadvantaged, and foster youth. So this LCFF supplemental funding, all the actions and services for this funding are to only go to support those 3 subgroups of students. Okay. Okay, and here's another budget overview. And the local indicator presentation now. Okay, so this is a required presentation, and again, like I mentioned earlier, we have different local indicators. This indicator priority one is basic conditions. And the data that we're using, the tool that we use is California Department of Ed DataQuest, and we're using the teacher workforce in regards to having clear credentials. So at this time, we have 85.6% of teachers who are considered highly qualified. All of our teachers are highly qualified. Highly qualified, I have another slide that I'll define what that means. And we're pretty at average of highly qualified teachers across California, keeping in mind that the 14.4% of teachers, the reason why they're not quote unquote highly qualified is the credential reason, is that our teachers might still be working on their credentials and they're in a classroom, or there might be a gap of like a month or 2 months that they're in the classroom without clearing their credential, or because they're in tier 1 and tier 2 of the induction program, they won't be considered highly qualified until they graduate from the 2 years of the induction program. So that's why there's always that percentage of a difference. We met the objective because we continue to look at this data. I work with Ms. Forrester and her human resources team on measuring this metric. Okay, and here you're going to see how basic conditions, again, are defined by total teaching FTE, clear credentialed, out of the field, interns, ineffective, incomplete, unknown. And on the next slide, again, we're still looking. So if you're interested in the definition of these indicators, you can read here. And I'm just going to, I don't like the word ineffective, but this is a word that, a definition that was given to us by the state. And it doesn't mean that the person is ineffective. It just means that there are internship permits, short-term staff permits, variable term waivers, substitute permits. It has nothing, it has to do with credentials, not with the person. Okay. The next priority is implementation of state academic standards. Again, we met the objective because we will continue to use our multi-tiered system of supports framework in making sure that we're monitoring all of the areas of looking at MTSS. We still are in the process of the development of diversity, equity, inclusion committee, a full implementation of the SST manual, curriculum implementation and design. We do have actually quite a few of our teachers who are working on different designs of lesson design this summer, so that they can proceed to implement the upcoming year. Okay, and this next slide. Okay. Continued implementation of the state academic standards. We met the objective because we continue to monitor and try to adopt. I know that we are looking at, Dr. Miramontes has guided our department in taking a look at math adoption next year, and we'll be working with our CBO, with Jennifer, to see how much funding is available for us to engage in a district-wide TK through 12 math adoption. Again, this would be an intervention to try to support and increase those math scores that are 10 to 15% below the ELA.
I just want to add that across the state, the frameworks are coming in, so they'll be adopting the frameworks next year. We'll start with the pilot committee, or we'll have a committee on board, and then we will have a pilot. Teachers will be a part of that, parents will be a part of that adoption. There's a whole board policy on adoption. We'll make sure you guys get that. We'll front load you. But it is something that across the state people are working on together.
Thank you. Yes, thanks for that. Yes, a framework comes out in November. So it's going to be a very short time frame for us to learn the framework, then take a look at the curriculum, but we'll begin the process, as like Dr. Miramontes mentioned, around November, December. And the next priority 6 is around school climate. And we have expanded our Healthy Kids survey. We do administer the survey to our students in elementary, to a sample set of students in elementary, middle, and high in 5th, 7th, 9th, and 11th. And as you can see, there has been some growth overall in regards to school connectedness, academic motivation, caring adult relationship, and schools being perceived as safe or very safe. Overall, there was growth in all 4 areas. And again, access to a broad course of study, we continue to keep the same goals of making sure that students have several opportunities to engage in the A through G requirements so that our students have access, should they wish, to CSU. We are looking also at the California Dashboard College and Career Indicator, of course, CTE pathways such as agricultural, building trades, and construction. And lastly, we want to take a look in December and measure growth on the California dashboard using many multiple measures. We want to continue to prioritize the gap areas and focus on objectives on growth in the subsequent years. Now, there is an appendix here, so if anyone's interested in taking a look at where we found some of the resources and supports in this presentation, you can take a look at the appendix here. And that is the presentation of our draft LCAP. Any questions?
Before we move up to questions, this item requires a public hearing. Can you please open up the public hearing?
All right, we're opening for public hearing. Thank you.
And we do not have comments, so you can close.
All right, I'm closing it. All right, do we have questions?
Motion and a second.
Yes, we're not approving. We are just doing the hearing. The approval will be at the next meeting.
Thank you for the presentation. Good news, which is great. Great work. You're saying that the way to think about this is it takes, say, 3 years to see progress once you've implemented something. There was obviously a jump just looking at the California dashboard metrics. Can you point to programs or initiatives that you feel like had an impact, especially in things like, I'm interested in things like chronic absenteeism and also suspension rates? Are we doing something that you can point to that says, yeah, this is making a difference, and that's why we're seeing this?
So we are, before it was called PI, Program Improvement, and the state shifted in more of an assistance model, differentiated assistance, and we have such wonderful relationships with San Mateo County Office of Ed, particularly with chronic absenteeism and also attendance. Mr. James Barnes worked with the San Mateo County Office of Ed, and remember the cycle of inquiry, looking at data, defining interventions, working with the sites, implementing, looking at data throughout the year, seeing if there's growth. He, and again, the teams, particularly at the high school, also the elementary, but we had a focus, because the biggest gap of attendance was present really at Half Moon Bay High School and Pilarcitos. And so we were able to look at the communication system of chronic absenteeism as soon as kids, we didn't want to wait till they were labeled as chronically absent, which is 10 or more absences in a school year. And so we built foolproof, or our teams, and led by Mr. Barnes as well as the county office, looked at the systems, communicated with families in a more positive manner versus just your child is absent. There's an actual formal letter that actually looks a little bit scary and too formal that goes out to families. And so we kind of shifted that model by actually looking at more like PBIS, Positive Behavior Intervention System, celebrating school attendance and talking about that at different venues. And we did have a significant increase in chronic absenteeism, and as well as suspensions and expulsions. And so again, looking at strategies, implementing them, seeing is it working, is it not, and then moving forward. For the academic piece, it's a little bit different because I guess year one it takes time for us to train. Like if I have to kind of categorize it, year one is looking at the data study, having all of the stakeholders understand like what is our goal, what is our purpose. Year two would be implementing the strategy training, and year three, that's when we start seeing the big bumps. And so we hope to see that also with our literacy plan. We hope, and some of the work that Rachel Sage and our literacy plan leaders are working on, we hope, because that, we modeled the ELD implementation because our ELs, again, are showing 75% growth. So we modeled that, and we worked with the, actually, I remember having conversations with our Big Lift partners saying, if we want to move the needle, we know that having specialists like ELD TOSAs at the sites will support that. And so they were, the county, again, being our supporters, are paying for a Big Lift teacher on special assignment. That's Rachel Sage. And so that's her task, is forming a literacy group to move that literacy needle forward. So we do expect, because this model has worked in the past, we expect to see some growth on literacy as we move forward, because a couple of things are happening, right? Our students are getting used to the process, as well as our teachers are getting familiar with the curriculum and the process. So these are just some strategies that I believe, along with others, but these are some of the strategies I believe help move the needle forward.
Just to comment on what we're talking about, absenteeism and chronic absenteeism, and it varies by school versus like elementary, high school, it's very different. Is there something that, it's just a thought, right? That maybe we could have counselors also get involved, not just calling the parents, because sometimes the parents don't know that the kids are not coming to school, they're not getting the communication. The communication is in a Spanish they don't understand, or is in an English language they also don't understand. I feel like it's not just telling the parents, your son and daughter are not going to school, but it's also talking to the student and seeing why they're not coming to school, because they're the ones that have to sit there. And there is a reason why they're not sitting there. They're unengaged, they're unmotivated, they're disconnected. So I think that not only should it fall on the reporting and the safe net of like calling parents and letting them know, but it also needs to fall on our students, and we need to know why they're not coming to school. And there are reasons. Kids don't stop coming just because. There are always reasons.
I will communicate that to our teams. I know there is some level of that, but some level of communication to students. I'll give you one example. After doing the dive and taking a look at when our students were mainly absent, particularly at the high school, is that they went off campus after lunch and just never returned. And so they started, like, if a child was chronically absent, they started monitoring the student, saying, hey, we're going to be looking for you when you come back.
And I get it, because I know that there's harsher punishments for tardies after lunch than in the beginning of the school day. What I'm trying to say is, I think what I'm more focused is on the students, and I feel like if we can focus on why they're not coming, that will really help to improve results, improve academics. I mean, there are reasons. When kids feel like they belong and they feel invested, they will participate and they will show up.
Thank you. I will take that input. Thank you.
Yeah, if I may just sort of interject, I would 100% agree with you. Kids need to feel a part of the school, right? And I know that it doesn't always work. I've talked about know my name, know my face, know my story. We're very fortunate in Half Moon Bay, in Montero Beach, and in the surrounding little communities that we have here at El Granada, that about 80% of the students start with us and finish with us. It was evident the other day when the high school grads stood up, right? But I've had conversations with kids. Some of them don't know some of the people. And I know some of our counselors are new at the high school. I know some of the counselors at the middle school are new. And we're going to have new counselors at the elementary school. We are going to invest in our counselors, right? We're going to make sure that our counseling program is stronger, right? And the whole thing about ensuring that we have counselors at the elementary schools, there's that transition between elementary to middle school, and the jump from middle school to high school is super important. And again, know my name, know my face, know my story. There are kids that everybody knows, and then there are kids that nobody knows. And as kids get older, they understand that. They understand, well, that's Mrs. Bhatia, Dr. Bhatia, right? She's a superstar, right? In everything she does, right? Well, every kid, in my opinion, is a superstar. They all have talent, they all have strengths, It's finding what those are and connecting with those. So, well, we're going to do a great job with it. I think our staff already does. So, it's an opportunity for us to grow and get better and improve our student outcomes for students. And whatever we have to do to support our staff, that's what we're going to do.
Thank you.
Can I follow up, or just, my one question was related to, and I think you answered it, but I want to make sure I understand it. The 2024 dashboard matrix, and I know we went over this before, but I want, that we're pointing out that even though there's a lot of green and yellow from the previous year, there's a lot of red and orange still with the English language arts, mathematics, and college career for our At Promise and Hispanic kids. So for this 3-year plan where we expect to see some change, part of that is the math hopeful adoption of frameworks will be, okay. And then,
Frameworks, and then, training on frameworks, we all are required, it's a tool, the framework.
Oh.
We're not, it's a guide. The what is the standards. And so the standards are already set. The framework is used to guide instruction, and the adoption would be the curriculum that we want to adopt in 26, 27.
okay, the math curriculum is not called frameworks. No, sorry, okay. But so there is that's not
There's
till.
a need, there's still a need.
Okay.
Yes, that's what you're saying.
Yes.
Yes, we're not complacent.
Okay.
Let me be clear on
And
that.
we're still focusing then on math and to hope, okay. And then.
And ELA, both.
Right, so when you say literacy, Rachel Sage is working on that, is that equal to ELA, or is that,
That's ELA, so.
Okay, those
and
are synonymous.
There's ELA and there's ELD, but our teams of teacher leaders and teachers on special assignment, teachers on special assignment, they've done a really good job of integrating, which is what it's supposed to be. When 2012, when the ELD standards got readopted, it was ELA, ELD, got married, both of the subjects got married together because it's like a Venn diagram. So yes, we're looking at ELA, ELD, and math, and we continue to work on all of the above. But you're right, when you're noticing the red, we still have 2 reds for English learners. Even though they might be 75%, that's good, but we need to continue to monitor the growth, because in ELA and math, they're still under the red. Even though in ELA progress, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my screen as you could see it. In ELA progress, you have, can you move it to slide, I think it's 11, Rosie? Yeah, there. So you see on the left, it's ELD, they called it the LP, because of course the acronyms, English Language Proficiency Indicator. It's green. For the first time, I have to say, the district has been in red for 15 years. And then, so again, we want to celebrate, but we're not, we want to continue to grow, the train just doesn't stop. And then ELA and math, red, and a new indicator that the state is measuring, it's the long-term English learners. They're called the LTELs. And the LTELs, we did get categorized for differentiated assistance for LTELs under chronic absenteeism, suspension, ELA, and math.
And I do want to just sort of say that, again, to acquire a language and to dominate a language, it takes 4 to 7 years, right? And these kids, some of these kids are assessed, after 3, 4 years, 3rd, 4th, 5th, right? The LPAC every year, but this is one indicator. As long as we continue to make growth is really the important piece here. Definitely something that we are going to focus in on. And there are 2 parts, even though you talked about literacy and ELA, there's 2 different types of ELD. There's explicit ELD, designated ELD, and that's by their instructional level. And then there's integrated. And integrated could be integrated in science, math, social studies. So as she mentioned, ELA and ELD are integrated across, right? But there's also designated ELD time specifically for kids. I was today in summer school, and I met a new student that came from, he's new to the country, right? And he's learning English for the first time. I think he was a promising, was it a 5th grade or 4th grade? Here at Cunha, 5th grade.
5th grade.
5th grader here at Cunha. Right, and so an opportunity for the kid, and he was, deer in the headlights, right? And so everything's in English. Teacher was doing a great job of supporting the student, but again, it takes some time, and we recognize that.
Thank you. I mean, just really, because I feel very passionate about when it comes to like input of like including the whole child and social, emotional, and engagement for families and students. It's just, it's so important. So I want to thank you for all your work. And like always, I will always throw my 2 cents because I feel like there, you know, we could always improve. There have been improvements, but we could always continue to improve, continue to talk about the A through G requirements to the community, to the families, to the students, because it's something that we need to strive for. And have equity in the classrooms, because I feel like you go to summer school, you go to the classrooms, predominantly, they're all Latino kids. You go to classrooms, you go to AP classes, predominantly, they're white kids. And the only classrooms that I've seen that you could say that there's half and half are immersion. And that should not be the case. That should not be the case. We should focus on striving for inclusive and equality in all aspects. In summer school, hopefully nobody needs it, but like in AP classes and things like that. So I'm always in a, you know, whatever I can do to support you, Leticia, please feel free to reach out to me.
Of course. Thank you.
This is incredibly helpful in terms of understanding kind of where we are, so I really appreciate it. I got a couple more questions. How do we understand the college and career? So going back, I'm looking at the metric. I'm not exactly sure how that applies to today. So how are we measuring? Why is it green or orange or?
So college and career takes a look at exactly that AP, but by subgroup. So the state is measuring subgroup data, language data on kids that are enrolled in AP courses.
It's AP courses, okay.
It also includes A through G. It includes our high school graduation, because every high school has their own graduation requirements, and it includes CTE pathways and access to a broad, like the broader course of study, CTE. So it includes 4 different areas. Yes, so college and career. So those would be and I don't have the specific percentage and formula because it's collected through the state. But yes, it's not just one graduation data piece.
And then you mentioned Big Lift and Rachel, and we're gonna hear from her in August
Yes.
about her work.
Yes.
That'll be interesting. And the last question, help me understand in terms of curriculum, the role curriculum plays, and when do you decide to shift to a new curriculum? How often does that happen? So curriculum's not working, you decide to go in a different direction. Give us a sense of that.
Well, for major adoptions, and by curriculum, I guess that comment, if okay. And so by curriculum, that comment, Trustee Cernica, I meant more like curriculum of assessments, of intervention materials. And so, but the core curriculum for the core subjects, the English language arts, math, science, social studies, history, social studies, PE, the arts, that is a cycle. And so we ourselves, the state before used to require us to adopt every 7 years in a 7 to 8 year cycle. But that went away, I would say, a decade ago about. And so now what the state does, the state will use the framework and the standards as drivers, and will now on a rolling basis, will put their stamp of approval of curriculum. And for those that have been here, we in this district, we always lean on that list of approved curriculum at the California Department of Ed that guarantees that it's equitable for students. It provides access to students to English language learners. Sometimes curriculum that is not supported by the state could unfortunately lead to possibly unintended biases that may not allow other students that might have a second language or newcomers give access. So we lean on the CDE to give us that list of approved core curriculum. They also have intervention materials not as strong as the core curriculum. And what we have done is we do have a curriculum advisory committee. This last year, because of the fiscal situation that we were in, we kind of froze adoptions because the state now does not require us to adopt. They just require us to have the most recent adoption. In elementary, for those that are here, that I think Lisette, you and also Mary Beth were a part of this, I always called it like the peanut butter jar. Sometimes, 6 years ago, schools were using different curriculum. So we really made it intentional in elementary particularly, because that's where we have the difference, to adopt an English language arts curriculum, to adopt a science curriculum. And we do have a current adoption of history, social science, that's Scott Forman's was our previous adoption, which was our hard textbook, and now we have Studies Weekly, and Studies Weekly is more like a little magazine. But at this time, for secondary, we do work with our secondary principals and department heads, and we say, okay, what is the need, and is there something that's outdated? And this committee will advise curriculum and instruction and ed services. And we have a Gantt chart that actually I'm in the process this summer. I mean, I love the summer because it's quiet. We get to update and just make sure we're on track. That will track what we're recommending for us to engage in adoptions, should we have the money in curriculum adoptions. So, yes, I hope that answered your question. Good?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to our next item, 3B, the 25-26 proposed CUSD fiscal year budget presentation and public hearing. Thank you, Ms. Marsh.
Good evening. Tonight, I'm here to present the 2025-2026 proposed budget and public hearing. Oh, you're doing it, Rosie? I didn't do that. Okay. It is. I can get closer.
You have to get closer.
Okay. Can you go back a couple slides? Okay. So tonight, we will be presenting the final revision and review of the 2024-25 operating budget, which is the estimated actuals, and also reviewing the 2025-26 proposed budget for Cabrillo Unified School District, and reviewing the MYP, the multiple year projection for the 2025 budget, which is required by the County Office of Education. Don't need to read this one, but it's really just saying that a proposed budget is required. And you've seen this timeline before. We are now at the end of this, at the end of the fiscal year, where we are presenting our proposed budget and LCAP and estimated actuals, and bringing back estimated actuals, proposed budget, and LCAP for adoption at the next meeting. Okay, so this slide is our 2024-2025 revenues, unrestricted only, the general fund. I've laid out the differences, the variances between adopted budget, first interim, second interim, and estimated actuals. And then the variance column is the difference between the last two reports. So tonight's report and second interim. And you can see that the LCFF revenue has increased to reflect the P1 property tax report that's been provided by the San Mateo County Office of Ed. And another increase there significantly is the local revenue, which has increased due to higher interest projections. And then our expenditures, we have an increase of a 5% salary schedule was one of the components of increasing the salaries and benefits. And that was effective January 1st, 2025. And in addition to that, there's additional stipends and some additional pay that has also increased at this time. Another significant amount. Okay, we're green, so. So the services increased 516,000 since my last report, and some significant amounts in that 516,000, the increase of 151,000 for insurance costs, an increase in utilities such as electric, gas, and phone charges of 172,000, 99,000 for professional services, and 49,000 in legal fees since second interim. And the next slide, please. Okay, so this slide represents our transfers in, transfers out, and contributions. The transfers out to the cafeteria fund are projected to decrease due to an increase in projected revenue. So it looks like we were projecting 361,000 contribution, and now we're at 312. So it looks a little bit of a decrease to support that program. While our contributions are increasing, mostly due to the 5% salary increase that also hits our restricted accounts, such as special ed and maintenance and operations. Okay. So our 2024-25 fund balance on the unrestricted side, you can see that our expenditures have increased due to many factors, including the 5% salary increase effective January 1st, 2025. And our ending fund balance has decreased by $1.8 million. But we do still continue to maintain a 3% reserve by the end of 24-25, plus 525,000 in the assigned column. And next slide, please. Just a pie chart here of how our 24-25 revenue is broke down between LCFF sources, federal, state, and local. Nothing too fancy there, but a little information. And then next slide, please. And our expenditures, same. It's worth noting that our salaries and benefits make up 79% of our expenditures. And the next slide, please. And so moving on to our 2025-26 proposed budget. This is a little snapshot of the revenues. It does reflect the property tax revenue, 2.5%. And also just wanted to make a note here that federal revenue makes up about 2.4% of our total revenues. Also, the increase of 500,000, reflecting the increase of our parcel tax that recently passed, is located in the restricted column under other local revenue. So you would see an increase of 500,000 in the 25-26 year there. Okay, and our expenditures. I'll start by saying that our salaries and benefits are directly fed into this budget using our new position control system, which is part of our newly implemented or about to be implemented financial system that is going countywide. And it's been a lot of work. But by using this position control system to feed into this budget, we are now meeting one of the 3 FCMAT recommendations, and that's huge. So wanted to make sure I noted that. So you can see here that I'm projecting that the salaries and benefits will decrease in the 25-26 year. One of the major components of that is they're going to decrease Okay. I'll just keep pushing that. So again, that represented $2 million. And then in addition to that, there are savings that have been captured due to reductions, multi-funding, attrition, and unfilled and vacant positions in the next year. And again, all fed in from our position control system, which really develops a level of accuracy. And next slide, please. And this is just a comparison to our revenues in 25-26. So now you can see what our revenues are made up here. And next slide, please. Okay. So same snapshot as what I showed you for 24-25. Salaries and benefits now make up 81% of our budget. Or 80, yeah, sorry. Okay. And then next I will present the multi-year projection, which is really a snapshot in time. It is a projection of the budget year 2025-26 and the 2 following years. Okay. Happy to explain this to anybody that wants to know, but it really is math going down the column here. You can see the ending fund balance increases each year. We are not deficit spending. It is increasing by about $1 million all 3 years. And CUSD continues to meet the minimum 3% required reserve. And with the additional $3.5 million in Fund 17, the district projects maintaining a combined reserve of 10 to 15% over the 3 years. Okay. And you can see here that right now we're projecting positive fund balances for all of our other funds in the 24-25 year. So all looks good in all other funds. And next slide, please. And these are some of the key budget assumptions that we used in our MYP. You can see that we build in a 2% step and column increase year after year, 5% health benefit rate increase year after year. I know it's not on here, but like I mentioned, a 2.5% annual growth for property taxes in each year. And then just some other factors. Some of them are district level, some of them are statewide decisions, such as CalPERS and CalSTRS employer rates. And our proposed budget is a positive certification, is what I would be asking for when I return in the next meeting. And we will be asking the board to adopt the proposed budget on June 26th. I do have a couple other things. So I want to again state that this budget was developed using a new financial system, which has been implemented countywide by San Mateo County Office of Ed. And the transition has proven to be challenging and complex. Due to the transition and uncertainties at the state level and federal level, many of the districts in the county have already decided to submit a 45-day revised budget. It's also my intention to create a 45-day revised budget. It gives us the opportunity to see if there's anything we're missing here and any changes during the first 45 days. So between tonight and the budget adoption on June 26th, staff will continue to evaluate the budget for any major discrepancies. If any are found, they will be communicated and reflected on a revised budget for adoption on June 26th. And I would also like to take a minute to acknowledge and thank Andrea Bauer, Jackie Sullivan, and Estefania Alvarez for the dedication and long hours. If you see a lone vehicle on a Saturday or Sunday, it's them. It's them. So at this time, I'd like to invite Brett McFadden, our fiscal advisor, to share his perspective.
Thank you, Jennifer. Madam Chair and members, I wanted to have come before you now and provide a perspective from where we were a year ago to where we are now. And I'm happy to report that our fiscal condition is in stark contrast to the positive from where we were at this time last year. So last July, I was asked initially to come aboard to provide capacity building in the fiscal office. We then discovered a number of things that were critical to the district's fiscal health. At that point in time, I was asked by the district, as well as working with CDE and the Fiscal Crisis Management Assistance Team, to act as fiscal advisor to the district. And so just to, I made a list of things to see what the sharp difference is between July of last year and where we are now going into the next fiscal year. At this time last year, we had a negative fiscal certification at that point. We were labeled a going concern by the state. We were one of 16 districts statewide that had that designation. Now we're filing a positive fiscal certification. We were deficit spending. We are now not projected to deficit spend at this point in time. We had a cash shortfall, and this was a critical issue. You can always have a budget problem, but when you run out of cash, you're in major trouble. You're then at that point, and then technically as a public agency, you are in a bankruptcy status at that point in time. We were at risk of running out of cash in the ability to pay our obligations in October. And so when discovered, we had about 8 weeks to turn that around. You now have an ongoing system in place where you're projecting cash projections on an annual basis, and we're projecting positive cash flow for the next 18 months. And that system is in place. We had no position control system, or no real strong position control system. This was one of 16 recommendations that the Fiscal Crisis Management Systems team put in place. And I'm proud to say that this has been put in place by Jennifer and her team throughout this year. And in fact, of the 16 major recommendations, I believe we've implemented at least 14 of them over time. And this district is no longer labeled a going concern. In fact, we're not a concern of the state. We're not on any list for the state. We had no enrollment projections this time last year. We now engage in yearly enrollment projections, not only in projecting for student attendance for staffing purposes, but we're also projecting for what might be future facility needs 5 years or 8 years or 10 years from now. We had a very small reserve in place. We now, as Jennifer just reported, we have a very healthy reserve for a small district of this size, protecting this district from unforeseen circumstances going into the future. You will recall we had significant labor strife happening this time. And what's happy to report, we now have 2 solid fiscal years where we have offered what we call sizable salary and benefit increases overall in the response to trying to retain and attract high-quality educators and staff on the coast at this point, and that's an ongoing thing. That's a constant thing. We still have farther to go, but what a big difference then where we were this year and going into now. And then finally, we had significant turnover and transition in the senior leadership and with the superintendent, and I would say a strong element of perhaps, I'll call it distrust, in terms of the district's relationship with the community. That's still ongoing. That takes a while to rebuild, but you now have stable leadership in place. You have a solid cabinet team. You have a solid fiscal office of staff that know their roles and know what they need to do on an annual basis. And you have processes and protocols in place that a good, solid, and a good, well-run district has in place. And then finally, to celebrate, you had an extension on your parcel tax, and you passed business. But in this business, you know, the wolf in the yard. This time last year, the wolf was probably coming through the door, or at least we were worried about that. So there's always risks, and we don't rest on our laurels, and there is a lot more to improve and such. But the district, I believe, based on the work that's been done by all of you, and you need to celebrate yourselves in terms of your leadership in plotting this course for the district, as well as the administration and many others in the business office and HR and ed services and such, and the school sites. But the district is heading in a positive direction, and it's far better than what I saw coming into the district a year ago. So hats off to you. Thank you.
All right, so this item requires a public hearing. President Daniels, can you open up the meeting, the hearing?
All right, but we're open now for public comments on this topic.
No comments.
All right, we're closing it. Board, is there any questions or comments for Ms. Marsh?
I don't have any questions. I don't have any questions. I want to just thank you for all your hard work. And, I mean, you're just also implementing with a new way of calculating everything and whatnot. So thank you for all your work and dedication. And to the people who supported you. And I'm sure that they supported you because they know how dedicated and how much work you've put into it. I do have maybe like just pondering questions, and I like how you touched on, I forget, I can't pronounce your name. Brett. Sorry, I'm horrible with names. No. I apologize. How you talked about where we were versus where we are. Can you just pinpoint roughly, I'm just curious, two things. One is, what are the highlights? Like, what helped us get there? And maybe as, just kind of as a, like, ongoing, you said, we celebrate, but we continue. Is there some sort of advice or something that you think we should, as board members, because I'm nowhere near like the capacity that Jennifer has with numbers, but as board members, what we should be focusing to maybe continue or to improve?
There we go. So thank you for the question. So I think if I had to sum it up, was the collective commitment of this organization in the community, that this school district plays a vital role in this community. So we had individuals, several of which are now on the board, that were part of the budget advisory committee, and they were active in that process, engaged, and I appreciated so much that when problems were identified, individuals said, all right, what is in our collective best interest? What's in the best interest of students? So you had a community focus and a student focus, and that was critical to bringing about the change in all of those categories that I laid out. In terms of moving forward, I would say from a board's perspective is continue to keep your focus on kids. What's in the best interest of your students and their long-term both instructional as well as social emotional well-being, and make your decisions focused on students, but also be mindful of maintaining, I would say, I'll call it a certain maybe conservative approach. You have a strong reserve in place right now, and as you may have heard me say, a reserve is not about money or percentage. Reserve is about three things. A reserve is about how much time do you want to react to something, how much time do you want to plan to get out of it, and how much time do you want to implement. And that's what it's primarily about. And you have a solid reserve in place to be able to weather any unforeseen element or unforeseen storm.
I just had one thing to add to Brett's list you gave earlier about all the stuff that you did, we did in the position control, and thank you all. I know staff has been working really hard for a long time to get to this point. But the one thing you forgot was thank you, Fund 40. Because without that $6.5 million, we would have had a really hard time doing this, I think. So I think we need to put that out there too. Thank you.
I just wanted, I was going to say the same thing, Mary Beth, because that really did extend a lifeline to the district for two reasons, for the fiscal health, but then also to increase the reserve. So definitely.
If we wouldn't have had that, I think about other districts and, being in a place like we were and how would you get out of it? It's really hard, so.
I don't have any questions because you were grateful, I am grateful that you met with me to went over them, so just thank you. And again, to your whole team, I drive by, saw you guys' cars there, and I think I didn't realize how much time I ran into Rosie getting coffee and made a point of this is not off time for you guys, even though it's summer. You are so on and extra. And so I really appreciate you not only getting this done, but then taking the time to really explain it. And so all of you for working on all of these things when it's summer for everyone else. And this looks amazing, and I'm excited for it to keep moving forward with this.
Awesome. I'll add my thank you as well. I have some questions for you. I guess I want to start off by saying I second all the comments about Fund 40. It's very fortunate that we had that and it all worked out the way that it did. And it raises the importance of keeping that fund together if we can. So making decisions where we spend out of other funds and we maintain Fund 40, because again, as Brett was talking about, you never know when the wolf is going to come back. And so if we have that, that's great. And if I'm not mistaken, it also earns interest.
Yes.
That's right. So that's another reason to keep it in there if we can. Okay, some questions for you. Significant decrease in expenditures. Significant decrease. And I know you explained some of that in your presentation. Can you elaborate more on where that's coming from? If you don't know how to read a budget and a parent goes and looks, it looks unrealistic. It looks like this is wildly optimistic. Can you help us understand that?
I can try. Yeah, so thank you for that question, and also to our Budget Advisory Committee members who continue to ask the questions. I do appreciate it. Again, so this budget represents about a $6 million decrease in expenditures. $2 million of that, like I stated, is due to that one-time payment of the retro. And then also, like I stated, there are also significant decreases based on the fiscal stabilization plan, the reductions that Dr. Miramanis is putting into place, some reassignments, some just a movement, overall movement, besides the fact that we have 7 retiree teachers. I know there are 6 teaching positions that were not being replaced between retirees and.
Because of decreased enrollment, is that correct? Yes. Right.
Right, yeah. So it's really taking advantage of opportunities. Some of it is multi-funding positions from other funds outside of the general fund. So besides salary and benefits, there's also some decreases in professional services, legal costs, reminding everybody that this was our strike year. So we did have some additional costs that will go away in the out years. Sorry, Brett. But in addition to that, there's one-time money also. So a lot of one-time grants, the revenue goes away, the expenses go away. So you have to see the decrease in expenditures along with the decrease in revenue. Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to provide a more detailed list to anybody. Like Brianna and Pete said, I did meet with both of them today and provided a little bit more detail. I don't know if we can also add that to our website or whatever, but I'd be happy to share it with anybody that has more questions.
Can I just make a quick comment on that? Since the decreased enrollment, I know I'm getting texts and I will get texts about this. It's also, and it's not just decreased enrollment, we're also filling classrooms to our size standards. Like all of our elementary schools have an increased enrollment over the last couple of years, even though our FTEs are reducing right now. We are having some combination classes, and instead of 19, 20 kids in a class, we're hoping to get to our closer 24. So there's a decreased enrollment overall right now in our district, though our elementary schools are starting to increase enrollment, but due to budgetary, I know it looks really good right now. Our budget situation and how we're funded, we are needing to fill classes because, like, for instance, I was like, oh, we could afford technically some more teachers, but give anyone a bonus, or not bonus, do any kind of salary increase next year, and that overage is gone. So I want parents to know that we're acknowledging that we are filling more thoughtful in filling classrooms to, not standards, but like our contractual numbers versus previous years.
Another question. I just want to clarify that this budget does reflect the raises that the certified and certificate staff got, and it also reflects open positions that we hope to fill. Like open positions now that we hope to fill by the end of the, yeah.
Yes, so both the estimated actuals and the budget reflect the increase, the salary increase, which I'm happy to say certificated staff will get paid on the 16th of June, and the rest of us, the classified, will get paid on June 30th. So they're going to be seeing that in their paycheck here this month. And so yes, all of that is included in all of these numbers. And I'm sorry, what was the second part?
Second one is that the budget also reflects the salaries of positions that haven't been
Oh,
filled,
yes,
but we
the
plan
vacancies.
to.
Yes, the vacancies, again, are fed in from the position control system. Yes.
Next question. So a big part of the reduction is that the mysterious service fund, the sort of catch-all service fund, the Fund 5,000. I'm learning more about what that fund is, but can you just briefly unpack that for the community? How should we understand the service fund? What are some of the major ticket items in that bucket?
Sure. And jump in if I forget something. So the title of it is Services and Other Operating Expenditures, which is huge, right? Utilities, professional services, legal fees, special ed, transportation, speech therapy, any kind of services that are provided to our non-public school students who are not receiving services from an employee of the district, but we are having to provide them outside of the district. All of those go into the 5,000s.
Ancillary student services.
Which ones what would that be?
Be any additional service that to students in the area of student support services, wellness, anything like that would go to those.
Contracts, summer school contracts.
Summer school contracts, yes.
Maintenance, service, and repairs. Our buses, service and repairs. Utilities, like I said, insurance costs. So, and the insurance costs would be like liability, those types of insurance costs. Any other major?
Said utilities.
Utilities is a big one. Yeah, it's a lot of different factors into one pot.
And I do actually have one other question that came up during your presentation, so I apologize for that. But can you help us understand why the significant increase in the book costs? What is that? Is that a cyclical thing that we buy books and there's a?
The increase in the current
Did I
year?
see that in the presentation that there
In
was
the
a?
current year?
I think so. Let's go back.
You want to have Lizzie's here?
No. The budget is
go back.
reflecting a decrease.
Yeah, so can you help us understand the decrease? There was a jump that I noticed in your presentation, and I wanted to get a sense of what that was. If I can find it.
No. So the decrease in the proposed budget of 496,000 is made up of 169,000 from Title I carryover, 198,000 out of LCAP supplemental supplies that are not being budgeted, and one-time grant funds, 76,000 in our CTIG grant, and then some miscellaneous one-time funds, carryover, miscellaneous supplies, and other grants and programs that we're able to decrease.
Sorry, I made a mistake. It was from this past year.
Okay.
The adopted budget was 542, and then the amount that we actually spent on books looks like it was 770.
Can you say what page? or
That's on
slide
page
number?
6.
I think.
So it just caught my eye, and I thought I'd ask if you have a sense of.
You know, off the top of my head, I'm not sure because I only did the variance between second interim and estimated actuals, which was only 41,000. I'd have to go back to a previous time.
Okay. Thank you for all your work and for your staff. Appreciate it. Your
Thank
staff's
you.
work.
Well done.
Thank you. Takes us to item 3C, approval of the updated certificated and co-curricular salary schedules. Do we need a vote or, no?
That's
motion.
exactly what it is. Just asking, with the increase of the 5%, asking the board to approve this. Well, thank Bianca and both Jennifer for putting this together. Thank you.
Do we need a motion?
Yes, we
I
need a...
move to approve.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Questions? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, please say no. It passes 5-0.
Thank you. Our next item, 3B, sorry, approval of Resolution 19-2025, approving budgetary increases and transfers at year end.
This is an annual item brought to the governing board to authorize necessary budget adjustments as the fiscal year closes. During the year-end financial processing, the final posting of warrants, payments, and liabilities can result in some budget categories known as major object codes exceeding their allocated amounts. To ensure the budget remains balanced and compliant with according requirements, funds may need to be transferred between categories or from reserves.
This is also an action item, so we need motion and second.
So moved.
Can I ask a quick question?
Oh,
Just a
go ahead.
clarifying question?
We need motion and second, and then we can...
We got a motion for a second.
Take Lisette.
This is a formality. There isn't a specific expense directed to this.
It's a formality.
Yeah, got it. Okay. Thank you.
Questions? Okay, so is this a resolution? We need roll call. Carmen?
Aye.
Lisette? Pete?
Aye.
Brianna?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you. That takes us to our next item, 3E, approval of Resolution 20-2025, interfund borrowing fiscal year 24-25.
Again, this is also another annual item brought to the governing board to authorize temporary borrowing of funds between district accounts as permitted by Education Code Section 42603. This resolution allows the district to move money from one fund, usually the general fund, to another, such as cafeteria fund, to cover the short-term cash flow needs, to ensure all the accounts end the fiscal year with a positive cash balance as required by the county.
All right, thank you.
So this is also another action item, so we need motion and second, please.
So moved.
A second.
Questions? All right, also, we require roll call for this. Carmen?
Aye.
Lisette? Pete?
Aye.
Brianna?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
All right, thank you. That takes us to item 3F, approval of El Granada Phase 2 temporary housing contract and Resolution 21-2025, supporting leaseback agreement.
Resolution number 21-2025 supports the award of leaseback agreements to Rhode Builders for the El Granada Elementary School Modernization Phase 2 project. That's a mouthful. The district uses its board-adopted best value methodology to evaluate all proposals and determine that Rhoden provided the highest ranked best value response based on qualifications, expertise, and pricing. The resolution authorizes the superintendent or designees to finalize and execute the agreements, ensuring the project moves forward in the district's best interest. And I want to thank Jennifer and Roger both for their work in ensuring that we're there for El Granada.
Thank you.
Let me ask a clarifying question. Jennifer, do we need double action on this item, or one, or with the resolution will be fine? We have the contract and then the resolution. One is okay? Okay. Okay, so motion to approve the El Granada Phase 2 temporary housing contract and Resolution 21, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Questions?
I have one question. The total contract price of $18,062,902, is that reflect what we expected for this phase? Is that right? Okay, thank you.
No more questions? Okay, so we move up to vote. Carmen?
Aye.
Lisette? Pete?
Aye.
Brianna?
Aye.
Mary Beth passes 5-0.
Right, thank you. Takes us to item 4, communications. Do we have public comments on non-agenda or consent items? Looks like we do have a comment.
We have received one.
And Maury, you're our only comment. So you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening. Here to talk about the swimming program. We're still at 0. I've sent emails, I don't get responses. I needed some information, I haven't been able to get that. At this point, I just don't understand why the district people are not behind this swimming program. We can offer swimming lessons to, once we get started, to about 250 kids. And that's a lot of kids and a lot of swimming lessons. So, we're back to the insurance policy, the SAM policy. It was at $5 million. It wasn't available on the insurance market. Matthew Chiester, never say that right, the city manager came and talked on a Zoom situation, talks to some district people. I guess it was lowered to $3 million. It's still not available on the insurance market. We thought we had it figured out because the city offered to use their insurance broker company to get this policy, the $3 million. That company could not even get it, and it's probably a big company if it insures cities. So I gave you the handout. I sent this to the board and to district people in an email over 2 months ago, but I just wanted to go over it quickly. I studied 5 swimming programs. They are all on high school property except number 2, which is Highlands. And Highlands is up in San Mateo by, what's the road? Crystal Springs, Bunker Hill Road. Not Bunker Hill, Bunker something. So anyhow, and that program's been there forever. It's more or less private, but it's not high-priced private. But it's not part of the San Mateo Recreation Department. They stand alone. So the Sonoma Splash program, it's not quite local, but they have this 16 lanes in the pool, 16 lanes. So a nonprofit raised all the money, had the pools
30
built,
seconds.
3 pools, but it's on high school property, okay? Last year, they had almost 15,000 people use their pool, 15,000. That's a lot of people. And so their insurance, they have a $5 million general liability, which the district's requiring of us. Is my time up? I have 10 more seconds. Okay, so if you look at this, I don't have time to go over it. Nobody except Highlands requires a separate SAM policy. And then Highlands requires a $1 million
Time is up.
policy, which we could afford. So I'm asking the district if they would consider accepting a $1 million policy so we can have the swim program. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann.
Thank you. That is it with our public comments. We have item 4B, Employee Organizational Report. Our first speaker is from Cabrillo Unified Teachers Association. Thank you.
There we go, green. First of all, I would like to publicly honor our 7 retirees from the Cabrillo Unified Teachers Association and a few folks that I know personally that have been greatly involved in the school district. First of all, at the high school level, Ann Reikabush, 27 years in the district, pretty much established the French program at the high school and perpetuated that, and then kept it alive all these years and worked tirelessly, sometimes working 5 different classes, just to kind of keep things moving. Kathleen Wall at the elementary school level, over 30 years in the school district, was part of our negotiations team and just a tremendous teacher. Taught a lot of us, not myself, but a lot of us here in the community. And finally, a special shout out to Tom Cox, my predecessor as Cabrillo Unified Teachers Association president, 37 years in the school district, and is kind of a teaching legend around here. So I wanted to acknowledge those 7 retirees as they move on to bigger and better things. And special thanks to our several of the personnel at the district office that came and worked at the graduation at the high school. Kind of went above and beyond their call of duty, so we appreciate their assistance. And that's also part of what we feel at CUTA. We feel like we're working in collaboration. We feel like we're working much better together. As evidenced by the approval of a salary increase at this board meeting. And, it would be remiss if I didn't ask the board for something while I'm up here. As we move forward and we start rebuilding, particularly at the high school level, I would like the board members to keep some things in mind. Now, we have teaching to contract, and with declining enrollment, we're probably going to have bigger classes, and we're at the high school level, we're at 34 to a class. And I've taught a few classes that have 35 and 36, and it's a packed house. Now, when we rebuild or reconstruct or build, I want us to keep in mind that we will need space for not just those bodies, but also those desks and also those storage space for those materials that teachers use. I'm very lucky. I'm in probably one of the biggest classrooms on campus. I also have the English department closet, which is adjacent to my classroom. So I have room for my stuff. But in contrast, if you look at one of my colleagues in a different building, she's got the same number of students I do in a much smaller space without a closet and without a huge shelf space in the back. So the way I kind of compare it is like you moved from a house and you downsized into a smaller location and you don't have as much storage space, or in some cases where I've moved into, no storage space at all. So we want to kind of keep that in mind as we look at plans for rebuilding, that we do allow teacher space for that curriculum and just those materials that we use on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for those positive comments. Item 4B2, come on up. California School Employee Association representative, Miss.
You guys all know how much I love public speaking. So first of all, I want to give a shout out to all of our CSEA members. We weathered a rough year, as many of us. We had the almost near work stoppage, the 11:59 stoppage for superintendents over 1 year. And CSEA remained a steadfast force at all school sites during the very tumultuous times. As Mr. Carey said, we won't be remiss without making requests. If you look at our salary schedule, even though with the 5%, the 2%, our starting wage is still below minimum wage of Half Moon Bay. If you look at our food service, we have starting paraprofessionals that are starting below a fast food worker in California. So it's just something to think about. As Brett said, it's an area of growth, and we're meeting with Bianca on Tuesday to start our negotiations. And so I'm just saying that we look forward to working and having a positive relationship moving forward and keeping a steadfast workforce. Thank you.
Thank you. This takes us to the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Thank you, Lisette. Carmen?
Aye.
Lisette? Pete?
Aye.
Brianna?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
All right, this takes us to item 6, governing board reports. Board members, we have a volunteer to go first.
Sure. I recently, I don't know, somewhere I saw something about that if you have a platform to say something, so I wrote something up. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the fear and uncertainty facing many families in our state right now. Reports of increased ICE activity in Los Angeles and elsewhere in California are deeply concerning. While our own schools have just concluded for the year, we remain steadfast in our commitment to ensuring that all students and families, regardless of immigration status, feel safe, seen, and valued. Schools must be places of trust and refuge, not fear. As a school board member, I stand in solidarity with every district working to protect and uplift their communities during these difficult times. My sister lives in Los Angeles, so this even feels very close to home, and I just want to acknowledge that here. So May, prior to being a board member, I always, we say the term May-cember, and May is wild. Adding being a board member to already May was just unbelievable. So it was wonderful, but I'm taking an oath to myself that I will acknowledge that I am now a school board member on top of everything else I do with schools, and acknowledge that there's a lot that happens in May. I loved going to all of the high school things. I think there was 3 2 weeks before graduation. I find it incredible. I come from Salinas, and I've never seen this, a legacy ceremony before. That is so cool. There were 60 students who are legacy students, and if you don't know, that means they have a parent, grandparent, great-grandparent who also graduated Half Moon Bay High. And there's a special ceremony where the whole school comes and watches the parent, grandparent court their child. And there were tears shed. Like, that was just very, very cool. I also, something I wanted to know, just like applaud, and I'm hoping I get the GPA right, but the amount of student athletes, you're acknowledged if you're a student athlete, with a 3.75 GPA for the last 7 semesters was remarkable. Like, I just, congrats to all of those students and the coaches and teachers for, like, that was pretty awesome. And then the high school graduation, I haven't been to a high school graduation in 20 years since my little sister graduated. And that was, what an honor. I had no idea like how much I would be front and center during that ceremony. But it was just very cool to be a part of, and I am thankful for those who allowed me to be there. This was just in our consent, but the SIPSAs from each school, having been on school site council for quite a few years, that is no small undertaking for each school site, so I really want to acknowledge the work that they did to submit that, even though we aren't like showing it. It's a huge undertaking, and thank you to everyone who worked on those at each of our sites. I'm an El Granada parent and a Cunha parent, even though like I'm a school board member, so those are just schools I'm a little bit more familiar with and things. I want to acknowledge all of El Granada Elementary's graduating, promoting 5th graders who are reclassified. El Granada has 0 students going to Cunha who need to be reclassified, if I'm saying that correctly. And that's just a huge accomplishment. And I'm very excited for all of those students and families. Learning about having to be reclassified, and when you go to Cunha, I'm not even sure what you do at the high school, that you can't take 0 period withstanding. If you're not reclassified, you need to go to ELD, which removes you from or an elective, and that just like kind of devastates me if for some reason you can't do 0 period or that you're required to. 7:52 a.m. is no joke for 13-year-olds. But so I'm thrilled for these students, and I hope the numbers elsewhere are exciting too. 2 more things. I presented at if you don't know about 100 plus women who care COSIDE, look it up. They're an amazing organization that donates to nonprofits. I didn't realize that the library free meals are based on district free and reduced lunch. And because as a district, we don't qualify as Title I, over 40%. We have some schools to do, but not in a district. They have to pay for that. And it's just one of those things, again, where really making sure that people fill out the forms, because I strongly believe we have over 40% of our families do qualify for this, and making them feel safe in filling out that form. So just another, shout out to that form, and hopefully this next school year we can increase. I'm not saying increase our numbers for those who are free and reduced lunch, but at least those who are filling it out. That would be a great goal. And then lastly, our retirees, since 3 were mentioned, I just wanted, Debbie Solaria also retired, and she was noted here by Kings Mountain. Christine Doby retired from Hatch. And then at El Granada, and because they were my kids' teachers, Angelica Bruno retired this year, who's my son's first grade teacher, who is phenomenal and will be greatly missed. And then Pauline Shu has also been here for over 35 years at El Granada Elementary. She was my daughter's 3rd grade teacher. She is someone who, when I entered the district, she has been so forthright and in what is going on with the school and so aware of our students. And if a student had invited her to her birthday party, she was there. If a student invited her to a Little League game, she was there. She was at my daughter's choir performance. Like, this woman is amazing, and I'm so thankful that both of them live here on the coast side. But I just wanted to acknowledge those retirees also. Okay, thanks.
I'll go next. Como siempre voy a empezar en español y a los que nos están viendo, ojalá que estén viendo esto. Como siempre, se les da la invitación para que vengan, para que se involucren y para que hagan preguntas. Y más que nada, ya había hablado Brianna de esto, estamos hablando de lo que está pasando en las noticias, que es lo que está pasando en Los Ángeles y todo eso con inmigración. Nada más quiero dejarles saber a las familias que aunque ahorita están los niños en verano, por favor, no tengan pánico, traten de entender que esta es una situación en la que tenemos que más que nada estar unidos, más que nada estar calmados, informados y pedir ayuda si es lo que lo necesitamos. Y no nada más estar tranquilos, pero no tener, no dar razones para que los arresten, para agresividad, no contesten. Básicamente todo lo que está en las estaciones de radio y en la televisión, hay mucha gente que está abogando por estas personas. Yo, yo lo siento muy personal. Yo fui una persona documentada, mis papás también, y tengo familia aquí que están primeramente esperando ser documentados. Y somos personas muy trabajadoras, somos personas muy responsables, somos personas que queremos ayudar a nuestros vecinos sin importar de dónde vienen y qué idioma hablan. Y quiero que todas las personas sepan que hay mucha injusticia y hay muchas personas que desafortunadamente no nacieron con esa fortuna de tener documentos o venir de padres documentados o estar en este país en tiempos que se pudieron hacer documentados y que tengamos más que nada más entendimiento de la situación y que nos apoyemos. Es bien importante ahorita. La segunda cosa es, también quiero darle las felicidades a todos los maestros que se están jubilando, los que tienen aquí más de 30 años. Muchas felicidades a esos. I'm just going to keep turning that off and on. When it starts getting wonky, I'm just going to reset it. Y les quiero dar yo fui a esta escuela desde que estaba en kinder y me gradué, yo sé que algunos de los maestros han estado aquí y muchas felicidades, muchas gracias por todas las contribuciones y todo lo que han hecho para las estudiantes. Terceramente, quiero también felicitar a todos los graduados, muchas felicidades y buena suerte a los que se están graduando y se van a ir a las universidades, a los colegios, también a los muchachitos que están yendo del quinto grado al sexto y los del octavo al noveno grado. Yo sé que cada escuela es como algo muchos están nerviosos, muchos ojalá que estén con ganas de empezar y hacer nuevas amistades y tratar cosas nuevas, y muchas felicidades a los muchachos, muchas felicidades a los maestros, porque sin ustedes estos niños no hubieran seguido adelante y haberse podido graduar. Y también muchas felicidades a los padres por apoyar y tratar de estar allí para ayudar a sus hijos en cualquier modo que pudieron. También quiero darle las gracias a todos los del distrito, todas las personas que trabajan desde haciendo haciendo el almuerzo, cuidándolos durante el tiempo de receso, a todos los que están ayudando a los maestros para apoyar a los alumnos que necesitan más ayuda, hasta la oficina del distrito que nos están viendo cómo vamos a poder continuar a gastar el dinero que estamos gastando, a Leticia por traernos más que nada material y cosas que nos van a beneficiar para nuestros alumnos. A todos, de puro corazón les quiero agradecer a todos por hacer esto por la comunidad. Y también quiero mencionar, fui a 6 graduaciones, me falta una, la de los listos, pero hasta ahorita fui a 6 graduaciones y quiero nada más decir las gracias a todas las escuelas por hacer un esfuerzo de incluir a nuestra comunidad latina. Y lo digo sinceramente porque hace 3 años esa no era la situación. Yo estuve un poco molesta porque no creo que es justo que los padres no se sientan incluidos, que los padres no entiendan la celebración que se está tomando a cabo. Y no creo que deberíamos de culparlos por no saber el idioma. Al contrario, yo creo que necesitamos incluirlos. Y al hecho de que hicieron las traducciones y el hecho que hablaron en español, eso realmente, eso significa que hubo inclusividad, respeto y una forma de que también ellos merecían estar allí, porque muchas veces he ido a funciones donde no tienen nada incluido y los papás se sientan como, ¿qué está pasando? Muchas gracias a todos los que hicieron eso posible y a los alumnos que hicieron sus discursos en los dos idiomas. Now in English, it's going to be shorter in English. I just wanted to also talk about what Brianna was talking about, what we see in the news and what's happening with immigration, and just remind people to stay calm. If you feel like, if you feel like you're in danger, just don't ask any questions, ask for an attorney, don't lie, and just try and keep calm. I mean, when we are in pressure like that, it's super scary. So just try and keep calm, don't be aggressive, don't lie, ask for an attorney. And school's not in session right now, so that could also be something where parents are a little alleviated, but we're here to support you, and we're here to do whatever we can as the district for your families and for the kids. The second thing is I want to thank the teachers who are retiring. I graduated from high school, went to Hatch, so I know, for example, some of these teachers have been here for a while, so congratulations to all of them, and thank you for everything you've done, and thank you for all the work that you've put in with these students who, I mean, the kids speak in their speeches and in graduating ceremonies, they bring up those teachers that made a difference in their life. So thank you so much to all those teachers, and the best of luck. I also want to congratulate the students for graduating. It was really cool. I went to 6 graduations. I have 1 more to go. It was Los Listos. And I just have to say that it was amazing to see the inclusivity, the respect, and the sense of belonging. And that only came because you had administrators, you had students, which is so beautiful, speaking in English and in Spanish. And having that respect to make everybody feel welcome is huge. I mean, we are a community of relationships, and a lot of the times we don't have those relationships because we don't even have that sense of respect. We sometimes get treated like second-class citizens, so I think that that was so amazing. That was not the case 3 years ago, so seeing that just evolve and continue to get better is amazing. So thank you to everybody who did that and who made everybody in the room feel included and just belonging there. And congratulations to the students, the teachers for helping them graduate, the students for doing all the hard work, and it's the graduates from high school going on to college, the little ones who are going on to middle school, and the middle schools who are going on to high school. There's like all this excitement and fear, so congratulations to them and the parents for supporting them. And also all the district employees from the blue team at Hatch to the yard duties in the different schools to the lunch people to maintenance to everybody in the district who does everything to make all of this work, because it's not just one person, it's a combination of everybody and everybody working together. So I just want to acknowledge everybody and thank everybody. And I think that was it. Yeah, I think that was it. Right, Rosie? Did I translate everything? Okay.
Let's see how long this lasts. I want to add my thanks to the retired teachers. Kathleen Wall is retiring from Hatch, and she's an institution there, and so she'll be greatly missed. So we thank her for her service. I also was super impressed by the end-of-year celebrations. I went to only a couple graduations, but they were really remarkable. I was really struck by the student speakers and how great of a job they did. And I was able to talk to some of the parents after the Hatch ceremony, and was shocked to discover that the students, by and large, wrote those speeches themselves, which was really impressive. And I also really appreciated the legacy ceremony. I thought that was really cool. I want to give a special thanks to Paige Richards, who was the interim principal at Hatch for the second half of the year. That's a really hard assignment. She was the assistant principal only for a blink of an eye, and then she was the principal for the second half of the year. Hatch is a very complex school. That's a hard job, and she took it on, and we really appreciate what she did. And then lastly tonight, I just want to make a comment about trust and credibility. I think it's an issue in this district, but I think that we're headed in the right direction. As Brett was talking about tonight, we are in a much different spot than we were a year ago. This is roughly the year anniversary where during the labor negotiations, the district, through a consultant, I think, if I'm remembering that process correctly, we couldn't accurately say who worked for the district and what they did. And I remember that was actually part of a motivation for why I ran. I was so taken back by that. And so we are in a better place, and I just ask the community to kind of continue to give us grace. We're going to continue to work to earn your trust. Dr. Miramontes and his team are working on a comprehensive org chart that we hope will be out and published by the fall. And Jennifer and her team are doing great work in terms of transparency with the budget and answering questions and being available. We really appreciate all that. That all goes a long way. And then lastly, and one other thing, there is a general sense that at some point we will address the website. That's going to cost money, so that's not a high priority, but it's a priority in that we recognize that if the website is easy to use and any parent, regardless of education or what their situation is, can go to the website and find information and be informed, that's a victory. And then lastly, that this trust that we want to build with the community is the responsibility of teachers, administrators, and the board. We want to make sure that we're responsive and accountable. So thank you.
Hi. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the graduations too. I thought it was really nice seeing all the kids, and I actually thought the adult school graduation was really nice too. And I had a long conversation with one of our adult students afterwards, and it was just amazing to see how hard he had worked to get there, and really talk to him and hear about the future. And I was so proud that we're not only serving all those kids, but we're also serving the parents as well. I mean, pre-K through adult school is a big deal. So it was really great to talk to him. And his tutor was also there, who I knew, but was, we have a lot of people helping, tutor and things like that. So anyway, it was great to see. I just want to follow up quickly with the delegate assembly, which I'm now state delegate. So I've gone to that since I was last here. I'm not going to talk about it too much. But basically, it's now I'm making policy at the state level as well as at our local level. And I don't want to talk about it too much. There's some bills. They're working their way through. I think I'd rather spend the time later when we see what gets spit out, and we can update then. The one thing that you guys would have seen in your email is the Prop 98 maneuver, which the governor is doing, and they've asked us to, write some letters with our opinions on there. So I'll encourage you to look into that and to make your voices heard on that, because that will help protect our funding in future years and make sure it's all done correctly by the book. There were two quotes. They had a number of speakers and things at this delegate assembly. It's all very interesting, but I wrote down two quotes from it that I just wanted to read to you all. And I already think we do a really good job at being aware of this, but they kind of stuck with me, so I thought I'd read them to you. from different speakers that were there. One was talking about just making sure as board members, we're hearing all voices. And the quote was, when families have affluence, they know how to have influence, right? So, we are getting those texts and emails from our friends, but we have to remember, to hear all the voices. So that stuck with me. And then this was the other one. The demographic you're born into should not lead to your destiny. And I thought that was really powerful as well. And I think that kind of sums up the work that we're doing here, is to try to, have good outcomes for all our kids, so all our kids have a chance. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks. All right. My comments are going to be brief. Thank you, board members. I also attended many graduations, but not as many as Trustee Cortez. But I just wanted to say, big shout out to all those graduates. It was such a pleasure to see the proud teachers, the proud students, the proud families, and just to see the celebrations. So thank you, all the people who put those on and attended and made that happen for our students. So thank you very much. And that concludes my comments. Dr. Miramontes.
Thank you. I will ditto what all the board members said about the promotions and the graduation ceremony. I do want to thank the DLAC and the Budget Advisory Council, both the advisory groups. That's a commitment, and I want to thank them for the work that they've done, and we're going to continue to build off of the strengths there. As we start, I always talk about in January, you're on two tracks. You finish strong, but at the same time, you're planning forward. Summer work projects we're in the middle of them. We already know about El Granada and Fairlawn View projects. We got the painting going on. I drove up today to see Kings Mountain. It's got a new fresh coat there. They'll finish it up by the middle of next week. The artificial turf at Cunha at the high school's happening right now. And just a shout out to our custodial crews at the school sites. Deep cleaning happens now, and as we prepare for the next year. Summer school, we got a chance to visit summer school with Dr. Bhatia. Thank our staff, our certificated classified staff, and our administrators that are there. I also want to thank our ALAS partners and the Boys and Girls Club who round out the summer program for us. And then, I do want to take this opportunity to invite our association leadership to really look at how we might honor our years of service people and our retirees at one event where I used to call it the Who Awards, right? Honoring your own. And so taking that opportunity so that we could all celebrate together. And really show them that we value our retirees, our years of service. And I think I've got some good ideas if our partners want to join together and how we might be able to sort of do this together, because we're all in this together. So that concludes my report.
So we were not expecting the meeting to be long, but if you have noticed, this packet has 1,171 pages. So for our office, it takes a week to put the packet together, but every item requires a lot of work behind. So I just want to acknowledge that.
All right, that closes our public part of our meeting. Thank you for coming. We are now going to be adjourning to a closed session, and we're going to report out at some point. All right, I'm reading the items on the next page. Okay. Let's see. see here. Conference with legal counsel, existing litigation. Do I read the case numbers? Okay, case number, sorry, the other glasses. Case number 052925, settlement agreement, that's item A. Item B is case number 053025, also a settlement.